This is Heritage Words, a podcast about the words we've inherited from our ancestors and the meaning they bring to our lives. Heritage Words is produced by the HUC Jewish Language Project, which raises awareness about Jewish ancestral diversity through the lens of language. I'm your host, Sarah Bunin-Benor. Today's episode was recorded on site at the Warsaw JCC in June 2026 as part of the Jewish Language Project's study tour of Poland. Each year, we visit a new location focusing on language and culture, past and present. If you're interested in joining a future tour, sign up for the Jewish Language Project's email list and follow us on social media. We're currently planning our 2027 study tour in New York. The Warsaw Conversation featured two leaders of Beit Polska and Beit Warszawa, the progressive Jewish communities in Poland and Warsaw. Marek Jezowski studied music and now works as a professional interpreter. He grew up in Poland and New York, the son of Holocaust survivors. He is a father and grandfather and is one of the founding members of the progressive Jewish communities in Poland. Dominika Zakrzewska is a social psychologist at Marek Jezowski University and studied at the Zelikow School of Jewish Nonprofit Management at Hebrew Union College, where I teach. She traveled around the world as part of the JDC and Twine Ralph I. Goldman Fellowship. Her research focuses on the perception of minorities and prejudice.
Mark and Dominika, welcome to Heritage Words.
It's a pleasure.
Pleasure to be here. Well, let's start by you telling us a little bit about yourselves. Let's start with Mark.
I'm nearly 70, which is a surprise for me, but that's why I'm sharing it. And most of those years I've spent actually in Poland. I was born in Warsaw. I spent 6 of my years out of Poland, which was in New York. And these were my formative years, my teenage years. I was 13 when the family left, immigrated, or practically speaking, felt unwelcome enough to leave Poland. But 6 years down the line, I returned to Poland initially for musical studies and stayed on. So what should I tell you about myself? I'm not too much of history, but I'm part of the Jewish community very much, in a sense that I feel that I understand it as it is. It is minuscule, so it's easy to understand all its levels and the way it works. I hope I don't sound presumptuous. But yes, and I also, there's various aspects of my Jewish identity that I have been exploring over the years.
Okay, we'll get.
I'm a family man, a grandfather of 7 and a father of 6, with 1 spouse. Okay.
Okay, we'll get back to your Jewish identity. And Dominika, please tell us about yourself.
I'm an educator and academic teacher working in the area of psychology and education. I've been born and raised in Warsaw, Poland, and initially I very much wanted to move out, to live in other places, but to be honest, the more I'm traveling around the world, the more I'm appreciating Poland and the kind of life we are having here. So it's changing with time, which is very surprising for me. And what more should I say?
That's great.
Thank you.
Well, let's move on to your Jewish identities. Dominika, why don't you start? Tell us about your Jewishness.
Well, I've been part of the Reform Jewish community in Poland for a bit over a decade now, and I have to say that it's been a very interesting time when I've been learning a lot and having lots of considerations about different aspects of being part of the Jewish community here. Well, it's both interesting, challenging. Not sure which aspects to refer to. I would say that probably one of the most interesting parts is learning, and there's a lot to learn, both about Jewish history and culture in general, but also about the local history and the ways in which Polish Jewry in general contributed to development of Judaism and its development over the time. But also I got a chance to visit a number of Jewish communities around the world in the places like India or Argentina. And it's been fascinating to see how Jewish traditions locally are mixed with the local traditions of various countries and cultural regions, which are each time very, very unique.
Mm.
And also bringing this knowledge back is another piece of that, like sharing the fact that we can have the same tradition, which is expressed by having the same roots, but being expressed differently in different places, and explaining to people how it looks.
Okay, Mark, why don't you tell us about your Jewishness?
Okay. When we think about Jewishness, we sort of default thinking is intergenerational transfer. Well, in some places, such as Poland, that didn't go so easy. It doesn't go so easy. And if I think about my family and how things happen, there were very few parts that my parents were able to deliver to me. But they did deliver to me such things as the fact that they lived through, and that they were alive, and that they were happy to have a next generation. So that continues to be my part of my identity.
When you say live through, do you mean that they survived the Holocaust?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm using a term because you're saying that Jewish heritage words is your important focus of attention. There is a Yiddish word, German I guess as well, Überleben, which it has a Polish equivalent, przeżyć, not żyć, to live, but to live through. And that's the word that somehow always sort of rings there in the language of my parents, I remember, and I somehow, that summarizes for me some aspect of my Jewishness.
Yeah, when you said live through, I was thinking of the Yiddish word Überleben. So what does that mean? Are you saying your parents used that word Überleben in their Polish when they were speaking?
To describe how they passed through these horrific years. Mm-hmm. My father, his mother was Jewish. He was partly only Jewish, but he survived in a village, hiding in a village, whereas my parents lived in my maternal side. My mom and her mother and sister survived in a German-speaking part of Poland, in the south of Poland, Silesia, Upper Silesia, near Katowice, the main city there. And they were actually also in hiding for some time with their German friends. So various stories. I don't want to go into at this stage because you're asking me for a broader picture. So another side of it is that having lived semi-consciously through my initial 13 years in Warsaw, we left for US. My father actually went ahead a couple of years earlier than us, so we were able to go there and get a permanent residence status immediately on entering. But the point is that New York, it was incredibly helpful in me recovering my Jewish identity, as both through school friends, through teachers, and so on. The point is that ultimately it was a self-thought process, and it has always been somehow a process where something gets delivered by community, but ultimately it's up to you with how much of that are you interested in, how much of that you want to process, pursue, explore, and adapt to your life. So when I returned from musical violin performing arts studies here, when I was 19, I again found myself in a semi-vacuum in terms of Jewishness, but it wasn't so. We were able to quickly discover that there were others like myself, also wanting to learn. Initially, it wasn't a religious aspect that was of interest, it was more cultural, philosophical, let's say mostly literary interests that kept me interested in the subject matter.
And how did you find those other people?
Through the main shul in Warsaw, I saw that there was a generation close to me, some older, some younger, that attended, because I would attend at high holidays and major Pesach, major holidays. I would go in and slowly learned that we organized some meetings for discussions and so on. And this is a fairly, let's say, productive way of learning. And this has continued until today. There is a B'nai Brit lodge in Warsaw, which is basically a meeting to discuss political, literary, and Jewish subjects of Jewish importance. Things happening in Poland, out of Poland, and so on. So this is something that I continue attending and perceiving as a valuable avenue of maintaining contacts, but also being up to date with the thinking.
Okay. And Dominika, tell us about your Jewish community.
Well, it's basically the same one when it comes to the Reform community here. It's, I would say, in biggest part consisted of younger people, a lot of who discovered their Jewish identity or developed it a bit later in their life. Already as young adults or young professionals. So I would say it's also very interesting to discover Judaism together, to learn together, to look for the sources of information of how we can learn. Well, we have a lot of organizations right now in Poland supporting that process, but still not as many as in the Western Europe or North America. So it's still a room for a lot of development in this matter, I would say. I would say it's also interesting to see how people approach this process, like how to integrate it with their daily life. And also with the professional development.
Well, Well, tell us about that learning process for you. How did you go about learning about Judaism?
Well, I've been learning during different kinds of lectures and seminars, both in Poland and abroad. We had number of visiting scholars here, mainly from North America and Israel, who were giving classes about, I would say, the whole range of topics you can think about, including specific things like Jewish ethics in medicine to Jewish history. So it's both very general and very specific. That's interesting for a small range of people. Some of them for the general community. And also I got a chance to participate in a number of international programs organized by EUPJ and WPJ, European and World Union for Progressive Judaism, and also in the program at the Hebrew Union College. I would say it's been a mixture of the local learning and international. And also some courses that were provided by academic institutions here in Poland, like Hebrew courses at the Warsaw University. It's been a lot of opportunities for me to get this knowledge and then to pass it on.
Okay, so you just started the new topic of language learning. So I want us to focus on that a little bit. So you learned Hebrew at University of Warsaw. Is that what you said?
Yes, actually my first experience of learning Hebrew was at Lauder Morasha Foundation, which is a non-profit organization here in Warsaw. And then I've been learning it at the Warsaw University. I also twice participated at Ulpan in Israel, once at Tel Aviv University and then at Haifa University. And also got some individual tutoring. So
That's a lot of tutoring.
I used lots of different ways of learning.
Okay. And what about you? Have you learned Hebrew?
I'm not a scholar, and certainly not a scholar of Hebrew. What I can say is that my Hebrew really is a davening related Hebrew. In other words, we are self-starters. We had to create many things because they weren't, for example, the progressive minhag we had to invent, in a sense, borrow from the left and right and create something for our community or communities. Because we also developed a prayer book. I edited that prayer book, so happens. But that's what I mean. My Hebrew is very limited, and I say that as a linguist because, by the way, my second degree is in linguistics, in applied linguistics. I'm an English, Polish interpreter, conference interpreter, primarily. Almost 40 years of career, and I do translation as well. So the point is, my Hebrew is basic, but I continually find fascination in studying Hebrew, and actually promise myself I'll do more and more. And of course today it's with Safaria, we all have it at our fingertips. So we have all the opportunities, and I guess I will now have more time, so I can study with someone as well. But we have my Hebrew is enough to study words, but just to go through a service, be it a daily, weekly, or holiday service. So that's point to make.
Well, but you said that you don't know much Hebrew, but then you said you edited the Siddur, so you must know enough Hebrew to edit the Siddur. Is it in Hebrew?
I didn't. No, I should be more specific. I didn't edit. I edited everything after a scholar of Hebrew, rabbi, actually edited and demonstrated and handed over to us the Hebrew aspect of it. This is actually this. We don't have it handy, but if you wish, we can donate a copy. It's quite a sizable book because it has translations into Polish of most of the material, but also transliteration into Polish, parallel transliterations and translations underneath. So it was thought as a tool for learning Hebrew as well, and for maybe even for what's the word? Faking it as well. Though for those who don't, they'll have their transliteration to help them along if they need.
Okay, so this was through Beit Polska.
This
right?
was through Beit Polska.
Tell us about Beit Polska.
Beit Polska, it all started with home meetings. In Warsaw. Initially, when my kids were in school age, we thought, with my wife, we need to give them more than what we can give them around the family table. Let's maybe find other parents with similar ideas, and there were singles all around as well, students, and there was a potentially learning community, and this somehow came together for Oleg Shabbat. Oleg Shabbat became something more than a family, sort of custom, and for some people it was their first actually encounter with the Shabbat evening, joint common meal, and that's how it started. And then we decided, let's not run back and forth between 5 apartments. Let's decide and rent a place, a typical Havruta type development. At some point, we were able to register, and we were able to find enough support, intellectual support and spiritual support from elsewhere, from outside, because Poland was a novelty. There were people were visiting from US, from as Dominika said, from Israel, but also they found that there actually is a Jewish remnant here, so let's help them along. And this is how it all started. And we were able to get rabbis ready to come in, volunteer and come in for holidays and help us. And this developed into a major community and communities. At the same time, the story of Beit Polska and Beit Warszawa is a story of fragility of communities, because it's not all development, happy outcomes. There lots of people went through the doors and used that experience in their lives, took it elsewhere. We've not experienced strong loyalties for various reasons. Plus the fragility, when I say fragility, is that we are in a sense of a period of mourning, because wrong people got elected, and they, in a sense, destroyed a sense of community. Most recently, this is a recent development.
Wait, the wrong people got elected,
and they
in what? Are you talking about
into executive functions.
in the government of Poland?
No.
Oh, you're talking about
I
in
mean
Beit
the
Warszawa.
community.
Okay.
I mean the community. Sorry for that. And they weren't honest, and that really broke the community apart. So we are in a sense of reconstituting
wow.
ourselves,
Wow. Okay.
which is painful, as you
Wow.
can imagine.
And Dominika, you've been involved with Beit Warsaw as well?
To some extent, yes.
Okay, and tell us about your involvement with Beit Warsaw.
Well, I've been involved initially as an educator. I've been responsible for quite a number of years for the children education programs, which was very, I would say, encouraging experience, very inspiring to help new generations to learn and to become part of the community. And then I've been working on the adults education, which was also an interesting stage in getting to know the community better. And that continued until I left Poland for some time to be part of international programs. And now I'm actually in the process of, I would say, redefining my role in this space as the community is changing as well.
Okay. And so Hebrew, let's talk about Hebrew. So you studied in Ulpan and you studied for davening purposes. How does Hebrew come up in Polish Jewish life?
Can you repeat the question?
How do Polish Jews use Hebrew?
Mhm.
Who wants to start?
Well, one is the one I mentioned. In other words, if people come to shul, they will use Hebrew. They will pray. But Hebrew is also ever present in the work that many people within the Jewish community actually focus on, and this is very often work with physical heritage. In other words, the synagogues, cemeteries mostly, and of course the Hebrew is ever present on the matzevot, and so that is part of the work, I think. But also work with texts. I would say Hebrew continues to be, I sometimes engage in discussions about Hasidic masters who have been present in Poland and had great influences, the various courts, and the history is fascinating to me. But also the heritage that they hand over. And of course I'm not able to read the originals. I get my Hebrew wisdom via English. So that's, I believe I'm not the only one. I'm not alone in that.
Yeah. But most Polish Jews probably read in Polish translation, right?
I would think.
And so what kinds of things you also speak English quite well, and so do you tend to read Jewish stuff in Polish or English? Or Hebrew?
Mm-hmm.
It actually depends. I would say a lot of materials are not available in Polish. So for sure it's easier to read in Polish because it's my native language, so obviously it's quicker and easier. However, I would say not always, because if I'm in the international setting, it's much easier, for example, if we are supposed to discuss the text, to read it in English because of the vocabulary that we later use in the discussion. So it's actually in many cases easier to read in English, because then the same expressions are used later on. So I would say the most I would probably read in English. Also because the biggest amount of materials are available. Like probably even more in Hebrew, but still, English is a bit easier for me.
Yeah, but you said you teach children, so when you teach children, I'm assuming you're teaching them just in Polish?
I used to teach children, yes, and we also taught kids the basics of Hebrew, like we taught Hebrew alphabet and the basic words, the vocabulary that was connected with the holidays or the songs in Hebrew. So Hebrew was also present in that education, but at the very, very basic level.
So I'm just curious how much Hebrew there is in the Polish that Polish Jews use in their regular conversations.
Oh, that's
So,
what you mean. Okay.
like you mentioned names of holidays, can you give us some examples of sentences in Polish that include names of holidays or also things that you do on holidays that are words from Hebrew within the Polish?
Okay, so what you're basically asking about is how much a Jewish community uses the, let's say, borrowed words from Hebrew in its parlance, daily discussions, hopefully, or let's say, holiday related, and so on.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. Well, initially when you said that, I thought about bar mitzvah and bat mitzvah experiences that I had with my kids, but also with my grandkids, some of my grandkids, not all of them are that age yet. So that's of course when we had the interchange and discussion about the text, and I thought, yeah, but ultimately the presentation or the speech was delivered in Polish with some words cited from the original. But I think I don't know what else to tell you except that another area where there would be Yiddish, but also Hebrew words, I guess, is the cuisine. In other words, food preparation, the aspect of kashrut, and so on. So
so give us some examples of that. Of when you're speaking Polish, but you use words from Hebrew or Yiddish when talking about cuisine or religion.
Well, there are direct, actually, the words get mangled when they moved into natural Polish, get endings such as words for treif. In Polish there is an equivalent word, trefne, it gets an ending, of course. Something is trefne, right? Or something is koszerne, right? It's kosher. Or it's, what else?
But can you give us an example of a Polish sentence, like actually say the sentence in Polish and then translate for us so that we can hear that word in context?
Okay. Let me think of another example then.
No, that example in Polish.
You mean that example? Okay. Well, the obvious one, ten produkt jest koszerny. Yeah, that
What
you
does it
can
mean?
understand that, of course.
What does it mean?
That product is kosher.
Okay.
Or in jocular vein you say, ale to na pewno trefne, nie ruszaj tego, to trefne. We won't touch that. Let's say we see street food and we say, don't touch it, that's brave.
Okay, great. And then, Dominika, can you give us some examples of a Polish sentence with some Hebrew words?
Wow, I've been thinking about it as Marek was describing, but one more thing that came to my mind when you asked about how often is Hebrew used was also the holiday greetings, like Chag Sameach. It's much more often you barely would hear people using Polish equivalent. People would rather use the Hebrew one. Or for Shabbat Shalom, right? People would use Hebrew as well, not the Polish translation. Although we have it,
Yeah.
it's very rare that we hear it.
What about Yiddish? Do they ever use Yiddish? Good Yantiv?
Oh, we definitely do
Yeah.
that, yeah. So it's interchangeable, yes.
And Good Shabbos too? Or
Good Shabbos, yeah.
But you wouldn't say a Giten Shabbos, you'd say, how would you say it?
I would say Git. I wouldn't say Gitten because my Yiddish is limited.
So give us an example. If you're meeting someone, it's Friday night or Saturday morning, what would you say to them?
I often say Good Shabbos, Git Shabbos, Git Shabbos.
Git Shabbos, okay. How about you? Shabbat Shalom?
Shabbat Shalom.
Okay. And do people talk about that as, like, do you say Shabbat Shalom or do you say Git Shabbos? No. They don't talk about
I talk to myself about when and how. If I want to make someone sensitive to the Yiddish, I actually will tell myself, why don't I use that? Let's not just be limited to the Ashkenazi pronunciation of Hebrew that's so prevalent today. So.
Okay, so you have some Yiddish words. What about you? Do you have any Yiddish words?
Any Yiddish words that comes to mind?
That-
Balagan is from
Balagan is,
Balagan.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
which is not in the same form, but we have in Polish the word bałagan, which is
We assume
related.
it's a
We
borrowed
assume
word,
it's
yes,
borrowed
from
word
Yiddish.
from Yiddish because the meaning is pretty much the same.
Actually, I would assume the opposite. I would assume, so it comes from Slavic into Yiddish, and from Yiddish into modern Hebrew, but your use of balagan is probably influenced by modern Hebrew.
Yeah.
But your use of bałagan, how do you say it?
Bałagan. Polish is
Bałagan
penultimate
is
syllable
probably
pronunciation.
original to the Slavic area.
Actually not.
You-
My guess is that it's a Turkic word.
Yes, it is originally a Turkic word that became part of Russian and
Yeah,
Polish.
that's how it was traveled.
Yeah. Okay, so what else? Tell us other words that you use that non-Jews wouldn't use.
Okay. That non-Jews wouldn't use. Yeah, it's the outcome will be probably pretty poor in a sense that Yiddish is no longer our second language, so we are in that much poorer for that, so there are fewer of these words that have stayed on in the community discussion. We can intellectually separate things out, and that's maybe why we don't mix things up that much.
This brings to mind one a bit fun experience from a few years ago when I've been guiding American group, and one of the participants was learning Yiddish. He came to Poland, and every place we're visiting, he would ask people whether they speak Yiddish, and pretty much everywhere people were surprised, sometimes even feeling uncomfortable being asked such a question because they felt like it's obvious they don't speak Yiddish. And this guy very much wanted to talk with somebody because he's been practicing the language. So it's really not that easy to find right now somebody in Poland speaking Yiddish, unless it's for academic purposes of studying texts.
Yeah.
Can I say something about balagan? I think it's interesting. I just looked it up. It's actually from Persian. Then it went to Turkey. Then it went to Russian. And I think in Israel we got it. We use it very often. I think it came from Russian in Israel.
Mhm.
And I don't know, maybe it entered
I think
also
through
Yiddish.
Yiddish, yeah, through Yiddish, probably, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and it has a meaning also interesting. I think it says the original.
The original, how meaning?
The original interpretation is balcony.
Yeah.
Then it became like a shed. In Russian, it becomes like a shed. Mahsan? Where you put
Storage.
Mahsan?
Storage section. Yeah.
And then it moved to theater,
Like a puppet
comedy
theater.
comedy theater.
Mhm. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's very interesting how it developed. So I don't know. I can look it up later.
Okay. So I want to turn now to names. So do you have Hebrew names?
I do have Hebrew names, but I understand you also meant to ask whether I'm using it, and the answer is not really. Like I do have it, but I mainly use my my Polish name.
Of
Like
course.
I use it sometimes for the purpose of participating in some celebrations, but that's all.
And can you tell us what your Hebrew name is?
Lilach.
Lilach. Beautiful. Okay, so did you choose that?
I chose that, yes.
And how did you choose it, and how does it relate to the name Dominika?
Oh, it does not really relate to the name Dominika. I had quite a dilemma of what to choose, but my favorite color is purple, and we have a beautiful flowers in Poland called Lilach, which is very close to Lilach. So that was the process of choosing. I'm sorry, it's not from more philosophical perspective or like academic, but it was simply like kind of bringing part of my personality, something that I liked to that name.
That's a beautiful way to choose a name.
Mm.
What about you?
I didn't choose my name, my Hebrew name. My parents probably did. They would address me either Marek or Meir.
Meir is
So
your Hebrew name?
Meir is my Jewish name. But I was, I just recalled maybe this I should share. We were very much, as young parents, very much wanted to recover that tradition. My wife is a convert, and we decided when our first daughter was born, we named her Józefina. By the way, at that time you couldn't register easily non-Polish sounding names, but we fought. We went to the registration office and said, her first name is Józefina, her second name is Shira. Please register. They wouldn't.
They wouldn't register it because it was a middle name, or because
as a middle name, even if it was a middle name, it was not. This was 1982.
Wow, and so they wouldn't allow a non-Polish name.
Right now it's much easier. Right now
Oh, yeah.
it's allowed to
very much
register foreign names as long as they are not offensive. So, well, sometimes parents are having very strange ideas about how to name children. So if the people at the city office decide that the name can be considered offensive or bring unpleasant associations, then they would have some considerations about it. But
Yeah.
otherwise, it's okay. And as far as I remember, it should end with A, right? The female.
Uh-huh.
We also have the rule in Polish, I believe all, if not most, if not all, with feminine names end with the letter A. So the name should also end like that. And if parents want it to be different, then it's quite a lengthy process of explaining to the city office why and how.
My granddaughter is Naomi, but in Polish it's Noemi, and it's an I at the end, and they accepted it.
They accepted it. Okay, well, at least
It's not impossible, but
at least it's a vowel.
at least it's
Okay,
yeah.
so what's your last name?
Jezowski.
And
A
is
solid
that,
Polish name.
it's a Polish name, so people wouldn't know you're Jewish from your name?
No.
Okay. What about your children and grandchildren? Would anyone know they were Jewish from their names?
La. Let me think. Not really. If I go one generation back, of course, my parents, my mother's maiden name was Moser, so her father, and my grandmother on the other side, on paternal side, is Bloch, so that would be clear.
And do you have children, Dominika?
I do.
You do. Do they have Jewish names?
Polish.
Polish names? And do they also have Hebrew names in addition to their normal names?
No.
No. Okay. And so, did either of you have anyone in mind that you were naming your children after, in honor of? Not you.
No.
Okay.
In case of my kids, when I think of, it wasn't my ancestors, but it was friends that I respected a lot.
Mm.
So one son is called Bernard David, and another is Joachim, another is Emile, which is French.
And those were named after friends of yours who were alive or not?
Both.
Both,
Some alive,
Okay.
some no longer.
So you were in part taking the Ashkenazi tradition of honorary naming,
Yes.
but not necessarily in honor of someone who has passed away. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and what about your friends? What percentage of your friends would you say are Jewish? Most, half, some, hardly any?
I don't live a very active social life, so I must admit. But I have a broad community of acquaintances and people I call friends or colleagues, and within that, maybe 1/3 is Jewish.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you?
It's exactly the number I came up with.
Yeah.
Approximately 1/3. Yes.
Okay. Great. Well, is there anything else either of you wants to share about your language and identity and Jewishness?
It's a fascinating process, continuing process, that's lifelong learning process, and it keeps me active. Particularly that the satisfaction that it's not all in the past, but we can contribute to it when I look at my next generations, when I look at the heritage that was salvaged and that you can not just look at as an artifact, but as something that carries meaning, that you can explore for meaning, and that you can share with others as a meaningful aspect of your culture.
Share with others, meaning other Jews or people in Poland in general?
Both, very much so. I actually the point I would finally make, because you're provoking me, is that I am of the generation of people who played down their Jewishness. I was ashamed of, or made to be ashamed of, when I was growing up a kid. That wasn't something to be proud of or speak about. Or when someone learned, you didn't get pats on your shoulder for that. And somehow over the years that's become such a normal and natural part of my identity that I see that even more so in my kids, in my by now adult people living out their lives, and my grandkids.
Wow.
Okay.
What about you, Dominika?
I would say that the part of learning that I love is that no matter how much you learned, there is still something more to learn. There's no way to know everything, and there is new knowledge that is developed over the time that we are learning. So this process is pretty much impossible to finish, which is beautiful. And also, in spite of all of the challenges that the pandemic brought, it also brought lots of solutions for e-learning and for learning from more distant places, more distant people, to using resources that are physically placed somewhere else. And I found it as a great point for me when I could actually access more things and more resources and learn about more resources, because it was the time when much more things become digitalized and available publicly. It's a bit different topic, but I found it very helpful, and I think it's also giving a lot of options to people who are living in places where Jewish communities are not that extended as North America, but having less infrastructure that we can use on the ground.
Yeah, we're really living in an international Jewish world right now. Yeah. Amazing. Okay, well, thank you so much. Let's give them a round of applause. And we have our live studio audience who is here and might have some questions. So let's open it up. Yes?
I wanted to ask one question to each of you. First Marek and then Dominika, and related to things you had mentioned. So I think, Marek, you mentioned that you studied music and maybe played violin, and I was wondering if there was something musical that's Jewishly colored in some kind of a way that was meaningful to you, that you could meaningful to you or your family, maybe to your parents, that you could share with us. And for Dominika, you talked about learning being very important, and I thought it might be interesting to hear if there's any particular type of learning, a text or a resource or a piece of literature, something that you found interesting, meaningful, that you've incorporated into your your identity or your life or your community. And so those are my questions.
Okay. One thing that I would only mention is that there's a lot of interesting 20th century repertoire by Jewish composers that is specifically and openly Jewish, in other words, draws on Jewish musical traditions. And they, because there was the Holocaust and the German, let's say, Nazi period, much of that music got squashed or was silenced, and it's really worth. It's being rediscovered. It's being studied. I've personally also included a number of pieces from that repertoire. You may have.
But not your music teacher.
He was my theory teacher when I studied at Manhattan School of Music.
Wow.
And we still keep in touch.
Great.
Well, so when it comes to learning, I would say that I very much appreciate the Hebrew style of learning. Based on discussion and sharing how people understand the text from their perspective. So I believe that it's basically useful for everyone, and not only in Jewish community, but also for people in general, and for building the civil society. It would be very helpful if people were practicing this kind of discussion and ability to share their thoughts and to respect the thoughts of others. And also, when it comes to exact sentence or exact thing, what came to my mind when you asked the question was a sentence from Talmud saying that a wise person can learn from everybody, which I really love, and I really embrace it in my daily life because I love traveling, I love meeting new people, and I believe that every meeting and every situation, every experience can teach us something valuable.
Beautiful. Okay, any other questions?
I guess taught that the terms like reform and like this is more of an American thing. I'm wondering, is that the term that your community uses, and if so, do you guys have that sort of multiple split? And if so, like, are they very separate, or is it more? Because obviously, Poland is a lot less Jews. Is it, more of a tight-knit community between the different denominations?
Do you mean the progressive versus reform?
Versus
the
Orthodox
terms,
also.
or reform versus Orthodox?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Any words of denomination you might use.
Dominika, you want to take that one?
Well, I've been actually thinking about the differentiation between reform and progressive that I understand is quite important in North America, but in here I see that people just use both for the same stream of Judaism. Maybe it's because we are not really having that many communities so that we could really split them more. Marek, you can correct me if you have different feeling, but my feeling is that it's about the size of the community, and I have to say that I'm also trying to understand what's the difference, if there is a difference between reform and progressive. We are mostly using progressive, but for the very fact that there is European Union for Progressive Judaism, which the community is part of, so it seems to be the right term that puts us, I would say, in the broader picture, but I don't know if there's other approach to that here.
Does that answer your question, or did you have another aspect in mind?
Yeah, I think that answers basically.
So there are Orthodox synagogues here, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And do you ever go to them?
Sometimes.
We have seders together. Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, very much so.
Does the Nozick synagogue, we visited there,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
are they Orthodox?
Yes.
And do you ever do anything with them?
Yes, very much so. We have annual limud, for example, get-togethers. We know basically everyone there personally, and so it's not that some people may feel very insular and sort of defensive about their turf, but I don't believe this is going to continue. I like the community to be as diverse and as it can be.
I have a question for Mark. If I understood what you implied, you said that in your childhood it sounded like there was more anti-Semitism than now. Is this correct?
Social anti-Semitism, yes. Political anti-Semitism, I would think now with what we are observing after over the past 3 years since November 8th and so on. I think there's a sort of very strong anti-Israeli sentiment being sown all around the world for good and bad reasons, and that's in a sense woken up the latent anti-Semitism.
You're talking about November 8th or October 7th?
October 7th, I meant, yes.
Okay.
Sorry. Yes, yeah, thank you. So that's what I sense. In other words, there's a politically inspired new wave of anti-Semitism coming at our door, but it expresses itself more in political demonstration rather than sort of person-to-person hate speech or, well, there is hate speech, I guess, public, but we don't, I guess even Paris is more dangerous for Jews than Warsaw, definitely, in terms of...
Do either of you ever wear external symbols of your Jewishness in public?
Oh yeah, at times. For man, it's, more conspicuous, of course.
The kippah?
Yeah, the kippah.
Do you call it a kippah or yarmulke?
Kippah.
Uh-huh.
We call it kippah. Yeah. In the old days, yeah, you're right. We would use the Polish word jarmułka. Okay, jarmułka. Okay, gotcha. Mm-hmm.
But right now, I think rather kippah is used. Right?
Yeah, right now.
So when it comes to the words that are used, the old Polish words that was used was very much abandoned for the sake of the shorter, shorter one. But I'm not sure whether it's because we have more and more Israeli people in Poland or because just the shorter word is easier to be used.
I think we have time for one more question. Okay, in that case, well, thank you. Thank you. Dziękuję. Thank you very much.
Heritage Words is a partnership of the Hebrew Union College Jewish Language Project and HUC Connect, supported by tax-deductible donations from listeners like you. I'm the producer and host, Sarah Bunin-Benor. Kyle Elbaz Fingerhut is assistant producer, Avishai Artsy is editor, and Talia Ehrenberg is video editor. The music is from Maurice El Medioni's French and Algerian Arabic album Café Oran, featuring the klezmatics David Krakauer and Frank London, courtesy of Piranha Records. This podcast is one of the many ways the Jewish Language Project raises awareness about the diversity of the Jewish people and the phenomenon of heritage words. We also have online crowdsourced dictionaries where you can find the words mentioned in each episode. Our social media posts include Music Mondays, Jewish Word of the Week, and fun facts. And we offer free educational materials and exhibits that you can visit online or display in a synagogue, museum, or community center. Contact us about our live tapings, study tours, and sponsorship opportunities. Looking for gifts for Shabbat dinners and Passover seders? Check out our whimsical and educational t-shirts, tote bags, posters, stickers, and aprons. You can find all this content and donate, volunteer, or sign up for our email list at jewishlanguages.org. Thank you, merci mucho, ilaha yaviloch, ashenem dank, shukran, soch boshi, toda rabah.